What's going on YouTube? If you click this video, I'm assuming that you're thinking about or you're about to apply for your federal firearms license. In this video, we're going to go over a few things that I had wish I known setting this all up. As always, my name is Josh. I own Chaos Firearms located in Red Rock, Arizona. I became a federal firearms license dealer about 2 years ago. When I first started my journey, it was definitely a little overwhelming as you have a ton of paperwork that has to be perfect when you apply. Then they come to your house, they interview you for hours, it seems like, and it does seem scary, but rest assured, I got you covered in this version. You have to decide on what you're going to be doing. Are you going to be just selling firearms? Are you thinking about gunsmithing? Maybe you just want to collect guns. You know, there's pawn licenses. There's multiple licenses that you can go over. There's a specific license for each idea that you want to do. I'm going to focus on the 07. That's the one that I have. It covers almost everything I mentioned before, and it does cover a lot of the firearms market, the industry. So you can buy, sell, gunsmith, make your own firearms and ammunition, and that was best suited for what I wanted in my purpose, so that's why I chose the 7. So I want to address a few myths. One is markup on guns. So most people who don't have access to dealer pricing just assume that we're getting these guns for a few $100s and we're selling them for thousands. It's what it, is what they make it feel. So they don't have access to it. Markup on guns are actually just around like 10%. To where, let's say your local restaurant has 33% markup on each one of their dishes. So this is not a get rich quick scheme. I know a lot of people get into it and they think that it is, and they think they can buy some and it's going to be easy, and it's not. You're going to need some seed money. You can't just get into this with $0. I tried. You can't do it. If you get lucky and you just happen to inherit a collection or something like that, there are those anomalies, but get a little bit of savings ahead of time, so when you're going into this, you have kind of enough money for inventory and stuff. So myth number 2. So as I stated before, you do not need a storefront. So when you want to open a business, you can actually open one from your house. A federal firearms license does allow you to do this out of your house also. So, you gotta do it. If you're renting an apartment, very rarely are you able to do this. Probably you're not able at all. You'd have to get permission from the actual owner, which is probably, 20 board members, which you never will. And when you sign a lease, they usually say, hey, you can't run a home-based business. So that's usually, right out of there. My model is I build more custom rifles. So I'm building 1-2 rifles a month. I don't need a storefront for that. I get a huge portion of my revenue from just cleaning weapons. People call up, hey, can I drop this off? Can I get it clean, pick it up in a few days? And that's where I get it. I also get a huge portion of my revenue from transfers. So what that means is someone went online, they bought something, they have to ship it to another licensed dealer. They ship it directly to me, and then they come to my house and pick it up. So, the opposite end of that is you have to allow strangers in your house. So if you're allowing and you're understanding that, people are going to randomly ship you stuff sometimes, especially if you're on Gunbroker, you get an email, so-and-so won this bid, and they ship it out 2 days later. Now you have to have some random guy who bought a gun online. Seems kind of crazy, but they're going to show up to your house. So if you're okay with that, those transfers and those gun cleanings are going to pay back the cost of the license, which is around $300 or, whatever license you pick. So they're good for 3 years. So doing those things pay back those licenses. You don't have to make up for it on the back end with the high markup on fire. If you made it this far, you're probably thinking of getting your FFL. You want to know more about getting one, and the first step is you have to fill out the application. You can find the form on atf.com. You can print it up. It's not the end of the world, but it has to be filled out perfectly. And why I say that it has to be filled out perfectly is because if you make a mistake on it, it will get kicked back. This is already a lengthy process. So if it gets kicked back, they're going to deny it. They're going to mail it back to you. You're going to have to correct it, and you're going to have to send it back. And hopefully when you send it back, it's now correct again, because it's going to just cause delays, and you're going to be unhappy, and you're going to get frustrated. Let's just put it that way. So, once they review your application, they say, okay, this is a good application. The next step is the interview. So a lot of people, think that they're going to come to your house and they're going to interrogate you. And the truth of the matter is they are. So they're going to come, they're going to sit with you probably 3 to 4 hours. And those 3 to 4 hours, they're going to go over the entire process of buying a firearm. So they're going to go over the paperwork. They're going to go over, what you need to do. You won't have access to the portal or anything, but, I always tell people that don't be afraid to write down questions that you might have while he's, going over all the information. Ask questions. Most of your questions do get answered that you might have. A lot of my questions I wrote down were answered, and at the end I, went through that wasn't checked, and I asked those questions. So, don't be afraid to ask questions during your interview. It's a really important process. They're there to make sure that you don't fail. So the whole purpose of the interview is to make sure that, you got a business plan, you want to engage in business, but to also make sure that you know what you're doing. So because every single step that you're doing, it's very easy to mess up, and you mess up, you could, get fines and lose your license. And if you plan to do this with your livelihood, it can screw up that plan. So, the interview is very important. Not only is it lengthy, but they are the person that can deny, or approve your license. At the end of the day, it's that human interaction that comes here. It's not an algorithm. It's not a credit approval. It's that person says, all right, I think this guy's got good, integrity, good morals. He's got a business plan. He's planning on, building a business. This is what he wants to do. Most denials are because they don't have a business model. They said, I just want to become a firearms dealer. I want to get guns at cheap. So they're going to deny you if that's all you want. So definitely, don't be afraid to ask questions. Gain as much information from the interview as possible. Once that interview concluded and you're approved, you should get your license in the mail maybe 2 weeks later. I think mine was 2 weeks. My process was actually very quick. I don't think it was streamlined. It was just very quick. So for me, I messed up on my form. They sent it back to me. Luckily, it's down the street, so mail was pretty fast. I sent it back to them. Very, very small clerical error. So being able to fix that was pretty easy. I think my entire process from application date to receiving my license was probably 65 days. So definitely got So a few things that I had wished I known, and I would probably go back and do a little differently, is I probably done a little bit more market research. I would have talked to a few more local stores. When I was applying for my license the first time, unfortunately I lived in a brand new area. I didn't know very many people. There was no gun shows in the state. There was only a few firearms dealers, and COVID was happening. So not only was there not a lot of options, they were hard to get into. So, dealing with closures. So I would definitely have gone, and I would do this now, if I was starting a business, I would go to local gun stores and just, say, hey, I'm thinking of opening up a home-based FFL. I want to carry, 2 to 3 pistols just every day in stock. What's some of your biggest movers? And most of them will, they'll help you. They'll give you a little bit of knowledge. They're not going to tell you every secret, obviously, but if you're saying, hey, is this Glock Gen 3 selling over the Gen 5? They're going to say, this Smith and Wesson is selling, more than this Canic, or whatever the case may be. They know what your area. In Billings, Montana, I'm sure rifles are going to sell more than, 380 bodyguards, and then vice versa, somewhere in, Texas, pistols are probably going to sell more than bolt action rifles, hunting rifles. It's just one of those things where you have to kind of do a market analysis. So that's one of the big things I would have done. I probably would have gone to a few gun shows if they were available, just to talk and see what's actually on the market, what's trading, stuff like that. The first setback that I kind of had was I didn't know there was dealer sites. So with the dealer sites, you get a better deal. I didn't know that. So when I got my license that night, I immediately went online, I uploaded copies of it, and I just started buying from online websites. I thought they were good deals, right? $20 here, $30 there off, and I was like, man, I'm gonna take this to a gun show and I'm gonna sell it. So I went out, I spent around $2,500. That doesn't seem like a lot. I bought, I think, 8 or 9 guns. I don't remember exactly. And I went to my gun show, and out of that $2,500 that I spent, I only profited a little over $200. So that kind of goes back to the first myth. On $2,500 investment, my return was $200. That's not that good. I didn't know that there were these websites. So after I sold, that lot of firearms off, I was like, there's got to be another way. Like, how am I ever going to do this? I'm going to have to sell 100 firearms just to, start turning a profit. So I did some research. I started looking, and there are direct from, wholesale distributors, direct, however you want to put it, websites. So you can now buy those firearms for, let's say, $379 instead of $399, and then you're selling them for $429, right? So you're gonna have that extra, 3 to 5% margin because you're buying direct from, the distribution centers instead of online retailers. So you don't have to wait for a sale. You just go online. These are the everyday prices. There's, like I said, there's just not a huge markup. So I definitely would have started off earlier buying direct from those websites. So another thing I wish I had known is, I guess I wish I would have not known. I guess I didn't know how much paperwork there was. There's a lot of paperwork. And then there's a little bit more on top of that. So once you receive your firearm, you have to put it in your bound book, right? So your inbound book. So you're going to get your firearm. It's going to get shipped to you. It's going to show up at your door. You have to take that firearm and you have to put all the information about that firearm into a book. Then when someone wants to purchase the firearm, they have to fill out the 4473. That's the paper that you have to fill out. There is a step for the dealer. He fills it out. Then the customer, the purchaser, the buyer, however you want to chalk it up, then they stop. And then I have to come back and I have to fill out another form. And then as if everything goes well, I got to fill out another page. So there's multiple steps in that little, 10 minutes of filling out 2 pieces of paper that anything could go wrong. You as a dealer, you're responsible for knowing and catching those corrections. That's your job. Your job is to make sure that they can fill it out. Anybody can fill it out. There's a question on there. It says, are you a felon? If they say yes and they're not lying, they didn't break a law. But if the dealer now doesn't notice it, there are errors. They run them through the background check. Something happens and they get approved for whatever reason. I then give that person a firearm. They're not supposed to have it. That would have stopped if I would have known the paperwork. So knowing the paperwork, filling it out, then you do the background check. They get approved. You give them their gun. You now have to go back into that book, and you then have to put all the information of saying, hey, I got rid of this gun. So for every firearm you sell, you have to do 2 entries in the books, and you have to fill out a form, and you need to keep a copy. So now as a business, you have a storefront, you're probably going to want to do, 40 to 400 firearm sales a month, depending on your size, obviously. So imagine, on the higher end, 400, 500, 600, you're doing 1,500 pages of data a month. Like that is, it's just super consuming. So unless you have a system down or you're good at paperwork, definitely, maybe consider, having, friend, family, someone help you with this paperwork, because it's very, very stressful, and you screw up, you as a dealer can be fined, you can get your license revoked, you can get into some serious trouble. So, make sure that you're able to do the paperwork. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. So, but I don't want to scare you away, but the paperwork is probably one of the most serious points of, having the federal firearms license. So in conclusion, if you're thinking about getting your FFL, and I really suggest putting out a 3, 6, and a year plan. What's your goals in a year? Shrink that down to 6 months. How can I be at 6 months to get to a year, and then come back to 3 months? Don't set up a 3-month goal, 6-month goal, and then a year goal, because your 3-month goal is going to be those aspirations of a year. So I always like to do it reverse. Do a year, 6 months, and 3. So do your year goal. Halfway, where do I want to be? And so on and so forth. You also don't want to get caught up on buying a bunch of inventory like I did and sitting on thousands of dollars of inventory that just doesn't move, or you can't sell or get rid of. So you're stuck on thousands of dollars of inventory, and you can't move it, right? So it's just down the drain. So definitely learn your market. Maybe some markets you sell maybe more rifle magazines or cleaning, whatever those little, things are. Just don't buy stuff that you're not going to be able to move. If you live in a hunting area, buy some hunting rifles. If you live in an area where they like to carry a lot, buy some, concealment pistols. If people are just target shooting in practice, then you can buy, those intermediate guns and rifles. You buy what your market wants. I live in Arizona. I'm not going to buy, buffalo killers. Just not going to happen. Then when it comes to the paperwork, find something that works for you. If you're good at paperwork, great. If you're not, maybe sign up for a digital form. You have to find a way to navigate the paperwork. Once you get that hurdle of doing the paperwork over, you're going to be a lot happier. It's going to be a lot easier. If you just think about it like this, if you try a little bit of everything, in the end, you're going to have nothing. If you like this video and you want to add your own experience, please comment down below. I can never, I'll probably never stop doing these videos, but to help me do these videos, I really need your support. So make sure you do like, you subscribe, and you do comment. We are starting a members only page. So if you want to become a member, you can join. We're gonna have exclusive content just for those members. Live one-on-ones, live videos, comment section, stuff like that. So stay safe out there.